As of May this year, the EPA issued a requirement in terms of enterprise specification, and it also provided a guideline which gives today the opportunity to save energy if we comply to the specification that they're providing. And in order of magnitude, they said that if worldwide all the servers would comply to these new guidelines, about 30% of energy savings can happen today. So building this new infrastructure where we're demanding actually more and more, we want productivity, we want scalability, we want flexibility, reliability. Well, this whole green IT infrastructure is going to be needed to optimize efficiently this whole ecosystem of the CPU, the memory, the software, and the peripherals. Specific to memory, what we have seen, at least in the case of Energy Star, is that it set a first barrier in terms of how much consumption the memory should have. And this is actually a system adder, which means that beyond the spec, if you're looking at adding extra memory to your system, you need to make sure that it's compliant to the 2 watt per gigabyte. Good news is that DDR3 RDIMM already in the 50 nanometer class technology meets this requirement. But it's not enough, because what we see today is that as the systems are evolving, the need for higher density is continuing to grow. And so one of the things to be aware of is as you're increasing your density, you're actually also increasing the contribution of memory in power consumption. These are actual measurements that we have done on servers that were based on DDR2 technology, and was giving us an order of magnitude of how much an increase in memory resulted in an increase of its contribution to the overall power. So this compounding effect is critical. And so where does DDR3 play in all this? Well, knowing that we're dealing with all these dynamics, both from an ecosystem, technology ecosystem, and also social ecosystem, and environmental, well, DDR3 is at the heart of this whole change. Samsung has always been leading the technology to a great extent, about a generation to a generation and a half ahead of everyone else. When you factor in the production, you factor in the reliability, and you factor in the advances that we're doing. And today, one of the key technologies that we're taking a very close look at is obviously the 40 nanometer based DDR3, which we are sampling and expect to go into production in the Q1 timeframe. Ballpark, in terms of saving and contribution that this brand new technology can provide, if you compare a DDR2 technology in the 60 nanometer and at a 1 gigabit and 667 megabits per second at 1.5 volts, what you see is that the 40 nanometer 2 gigabit 1.35 technology, which much higher bandwidth, gives you about a 73% power saving. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the various steps we're taking by isolating some of these elements, technology, architecture, process, and voltage, and show you how one by one we're able to scale down the power. Again, these are all actual measurements that we did. We isolated it on 48 gigabyte systems, so everything is around 48 gigabyte infrastructure. Looking purely at an efficiency standpoint between DDR2 and DDR3, when we look at gigabits per watt, we're seeing that overall shifting the architecture from DDR2 to DDR3 gives you about 80% saving. If you now look at other angles, such as process, we're seeing that various process nodes that we have applied in our technology gives us about 25% in the 50 nanometer class technology, which today is in full production, and will give us an additional 18% in the 40 nanometer, resulting overall in about 38% saving. If you now isolate the contribution of higher density, well, we see that going from a DDR3 1 gigabit to a DDR3 2 gigabit not only doubles the density, but at the same time, we're able to offer you an additional 18% power saving. And then last but not least, looking at the contribution of lower voltages, scaling it from 1.5 to 1.35 gives you the ability for DDR3 technology to go at about 17% saving. So adding all those bits and pieces together, we notice that from the DDR2 technology that today is utilized in a number of servers, migrating then to the DDR3 technology that are now used in brand new generations, we're achieving a total of 73% saving. How does that translate from a system point of view? Well, from a system point of view, actual measurements are showing that a current solution that would be using a 60 nanometer class, 1 gigabit based, 1.8 volt DDR2 memory infrastructure of about 48 gigabytes, if you replace this infrastructure with a DDR3 based server platform, well, first of all, you get the 73% saving. And from a system point of view, you get about 38% saving. Now, we also looked at some calculations that if we had taken all the servers in the U.S., we're expecting by 2010 that there'll be about 11.5 million. And if we replace them with brand new DDR3-based server platforms that would be using the Samsung's 40 nanometer class technology, we would be saving an average 29.5 billion of watt of energy per year. And if you take about 6 cents for the per kilowatt, it comes to about $2 billion per year. Let's take it now one level higher. If we look at it from a global perspective, we expect also based on IDC that in next year there'll be about 32 million servers worldwide. And if you did a similar comparison, you're seeing that worldwide would arrive at about 82 terawatts of saving. And since every country has different pricing schemes, we left out the billions of dollars saving, but it can also show you the amount of saving that we're contributing. I earlier on said that in New York, everyone's talking right now about CO2 and CO2 taxation. The Europeans are also looking at considering a taxation for some products that would eventually enter their territory. The Chinese, and as well as the U.S. we mentioned earlier on, are seriously looking at reviewing the specification of various platforms. And so if you look at the amount of CO2 emission that is being saved by simply switching to brand new architectures, we're looking at about 35 million tons of CO2 that are saved within 1 year. This results into eliminating the need to build 7 power plants. Well, guess what? Forests are not growing. They're actually getting smaller and smaller. And if we look at how many trees we would have to build in order to balance the CO2 emission, it would mean that we would have to have about 809 million trees that are already 10 years old. And in terms of vehicles that would be put off the highway, if we look at it from an equivalence point of view, it would be about 5.8 million vehicles a year. So this is fairly significant. I'm going to just then step a little bit further in terms of technology. 40 nanometer is a key focus for us, both in terms of production and in terms of providing you solutions that will give you the best possible power and performance profile. Density is the next thing that we're going to continue. We talked about 2 gigabit, but 4 gigabit is our next challenge and also focus. So in 2010, within the 40 nanometer process, you'll be seeing also 32 gigabyte RDIMMs that we're going to be offering. Obviously, when you're looking at higher density systems, we will be offering in 2010 16 gigabyte registered DIMMs based on 4 gigabit, as well as 32 gigabyte RDIMMs quad rank based on the 4 gigabit solutions. If we now look at the value proposition of the 4 gigabit, it mainly from a power point of view is going to be definitely advantageous when you're looking at increasing your overall system density. That's where most of the value proposition of the high density comes when you look at it from a power perspective. And here you see that comparing a 48 gigabyte server using 1 gigabit DDR3 and comparing it to a 4 gigabit based server that is populated to 96 gigabyte, you're not only increasing your density of your server, but you're also at the same time guaranteeing about 53% reduction in memory power consumption and a total reduction in terms of system power consumption of 13%. If you look at a one-to-one basis, meaning same equivalencies in terms of server densities, but you're migrating from a 1 gigabit DDR3 to a 4 gigabit, the saving from a system level are 15% and from a memory level 61%. And that goes back to, again, the main value proposition of higher densities is really when you're looking at much more density, that's where you get most of the benefit. We have actually a website which I invite you to go to. You will find most of the specifications and information about our new technologies and new products. And one of the key things to bear in mind is that energy saving is not just a cool thing. It is a responsibility that we all have to take very seriously. I think that we can all argue about the metrics and the environmental aspects in terms of how good are we calculating global warming and everything. But the fact of the matter is that the technology industry has a pollution called power. And it is our responsibility to reduce that power and at the same time optimize these systems. And so not only it is a civil responsibility, but we're seeing more and more regulations, and we're expecting that those regulations will continue to intensify and impact our industry. And so it is important that we have that vision and also understanding that it's a critical aspect. And our mission, obviously, is to provide you with leading-edge solutions that give you the optimal balance between low power and high performance. And we invite you, again, to take a look at the website where you will be finding information regarding our 40-nanometer class, 2 gigabit, 1.35 Volta DDR3 technology. But you will also, on this website, find information regarding our current 50-nanometer generation. And other pieces of information regarding the importance of green technology. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
So just a quick comment, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. There's a couple other things going on that you guys need to be aware of. There's a performance class given by mobile later on today, and then there will be, desktop, and then there's mobile today. Dan Ragland's giving that, and then there will be a performance class on desktop that Mike Mullins will be giving. Many of the companies they're showing their latest technology in the forums downstairs. We're also going to be showing a 1 terabyte demo right outside here in the Advanced Technology Zone. So please stop by and see that. What we'd like to do is, again, if you guys can fill out your surveys, again, the easiest thing, just go to that 10 and go straight down. It makes things a lot easier for everybody. But we're going to open up for Q&A. We also have a Q&A session tonight at 6 right here, please. So I'm going to open up for questions. We've got about 4 or 5 minutes.
Hi. I was just curious about the Bob architecture.
Yep.
Is that the same AMB2 that was on the FBDIMM, or just AMB?
For those of you unfamiliar with, Bob stands for Buffer on Board. It's used in our server products, our high-end server products, our MC and EX type products, and it is similar technology